Kick off. Okay. And just started the recording. Okay, very good, sir. All right. I would like to call the meeting to order. Is there any announcements? Who's with us electronically, John? I don't know who it is. Okay. You can take that first. Thank you, sir. Make a motion to approve the agenda. There's a second.
Second.
So moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 The agenda is approved. Public forum. Anybody wishing to speak? No chickens and squirrels. Yeah,
Maybe even cricket.
yeah, no crickets, yeah. Okay then. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Do any of the managers have any items they would like to pull to the consent calendar? Say like Sandy, yeah, remember. Thanks. Okay. Well, not hearing any. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 It is approved. Thank you, gentlemen. Updates and requests from partners, volunteers. We don't have anything like that today, as far as I know. So I'm going to move on to business and reports. Watershed Management Plan, Section 5.1. This is a Greg, you're up, by the way, as you well know. This was a interesting read. I required a little tea for it, but nevertheless, good information. No, the one part for me that I have difficulty with is, you know, I'm supposed to know this stuff to a point. When somebody goes, hey, how many acres is Long Lake? 1100? I don't know.
It's hard to believe that this is a much abbreviated version from the last plan.
Yeah.
But the truth is, Valley Branch Watershed District has compiled lots and lots of data over your 60 years of existence. So all of that information is very good information. The last plan included that in sort of an encyclopedic fashion for each of these sub-watersheds. And so that section of the plan was nearly 1,000 pages on its own of, you know, tabular data, maps of sub-watersheds, aquatic plant surveys, stuff that had been compiled over many, many years, often several decades for some of these water bodies. That information is still useful, but this version that you reviewed for this meeting is a somewhat abbreviated take on that. So where some of the data hasn't been updated since the last plan, it's been referenced in the case of some of the aquatic vegetation surveys for some of the lakes that aren't being monitored as frequently anymore. Also, you now have an annual monitoring report that summarizes the most recent water quality and your 10-year averages and all of the trends for water bodies monitored in each year. So rather than including tables and plots like water quality data, this plan now references those reports because they'll be updated every year, whereas this plan will not be. And so following that format, the outline of each section generally follows the same template as last time. For each of these sub-watersheds, there's kind of a brief narrative about where it's located, what's the land use in that watershed. Does the lake have public access, things like that. There's a brief summary about current water quality, often focusing on whether or not it's impaired and what Valley Branch and partners have done to improve water quality recently. There's a similar summary for water quantity and flooding. But in some cases, it does kind of reference the 2015 plan for the details and sort of the chronology of all of the studies and evaluations that have gone into many of these water bodies. And then some watersheds have a little bit more information about groundwater. Some of them have more information about aquatic plants and other ecological health things like fisheries, if it's relevant. And then ultimately, ending in a very brief section that kind of has a bullet list of specific actions planned for that sub-watershed, or if there are no specific actions planned, the watershed-wide activities that are applicable to that watershed. And I think in all cases, that would include routine monitoring, WACA enforcement and permit review for development, redevelopment projects.
I also saw some computer modeling references.
Yes.
And those are updated as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one thing is that the district has been going through and updating the XP swim models since the last plan. And where that data has been updated, the updated data is included in the plan. Where it's not yet updated, it notes that. But again, in terms of mapping floodplains, for example, it just references the web map because that's where the most current information will be.
Right. So the way outside of the recreational reading that I enjoyed, thank you. I was looking for grammatical errors, spelling, that sort of stuff. Unfortunately,
quite a few of those.
well, you got me beat because I didn't see much of anything except for what looks like a good information base for what we need. So, sir. I saw the hand.
I have a,
Oh, go ahead.
I have a quick question. Go ahead. Oh, good. Okay. I have to say, I do like the new format a lot. I think that condensing it down like that makes it a lot easier for, certainly for me to read through and see, the information about a particular subwatershed. I think that's real helpful. I did have one question about the links. I think in particular to the map, but also to a lot of the other references, they go to the document or to the map in general, rather than the specific sub-watershed that's being talked about or referenced.
Yes.
And is that the way you anticipate it'll continue to be?
Yes, the references to the web map will take you to, for that one specifically, will take you to the landing page for the Valley Branch web map. And so the user would have all of the data at their fingertips, but would have to select through the filters what particular piece of data.
Okay. My concern there is that may put a barrier up for some people in terms of being able to actually dive into it and find the information they want. Hopefully that's very few people. I understand, why that kind of decision needs to be made. But it's something to keep in mind maybe for some future version of this. Yeah.
Rick, I'm lost on that. Isn't that a click away and then they reference our archive data on that or?
Yeah,
I missed some.
go ahead.
Well, the items that are referenced to the 2015 plan, we'll add a link to the 2015 plan, so that'll also be a quick way to get you to the document. But I think what Rick was saying is that when you click to the web map, it pops up the web map, but it doesn't, like if you click on a thing that says, the Valley Branch web map has more detailed information about the sub-watersheds in the Valley Creek watershed, for example. If you click on that, it doesn't immediately bring up the sub-watersheds zoomed into Valley Creek. You have to open up, you have to turn on the
navigate
sub-watersheds layer and zoom in to where you want to look at it.
Yeah. And that I think applies as well to the annual reports or any other information you want. You still have to go into the annual report and then find the lake that you're looking for.
Yeah.
The sub-watershed.
Same with the water quality reports. You click on the water quality reports, it'll bring up the report, but you'd have to go to the table of contents and click on Valley Creek or Sunfish Lake source.
Yeah.
From a Bowser compliance standpoint, they're perfectly fine with that. you're right, it is a little bit of an additional step, and so in the narrative, we've tried to include the relevant inclusions.
Hmm.
Um, and then point people to those resources if they want to dive deeper, understanding that it is a little bit more of a commitment from them to try and get that.
Thank you. And then a real minor thing, looks like when I looked at the map on page 98, both the legend and the map showed the sub-watershed boundaries. The major and minor sub-watershed boundaries were real hard to distinguish. And part of that might have been just my machine. It looks like the legend has the same size font on it, or it's, you know, the line thickness and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
it's impossible to distinguish those two. And at this scale map, I think what would make sense to just remove the minor watershed lines and only show the major watershed
or
lines.
change the color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good eye,
So
Rick.
pretty minor types, that's all. Thank you.
Can you explain the difference on the sub-watersheds on the charts when it has the watershed area, the local area versus the total area for the
Yes.
sub-watershed?
So the distinction there is so on figure 5.1, for example, the whole watershed has been divided into 38 major sub-watersheds or watersheds, if you want to call it that. Some of those are located downstream of others, like in Project 1007, for example. So the local watershed is the area that drains to that resource without having passed through another one of the major watersheds first.
Okay.
Whereas the total watershed may include one or more upstream watersheds that the water has sequentially flowed through before it arrives at.
Okay.
You know, so for example, like the total watershed to Lake Elmo is very large because it includes all of the areas tributary to, I'm not sure, right, that bypasses Lake Elmo, never mind. But like the Tri-Lakes, for example, have a bunch of upstream watersheds that are also tributary to the Tri-Lakes.
Okay.
It gets a little tricky because you start to get distinctions like Jane is sequentially between, like downstream of Lake Vermontreville, but it's disconnected and it only gets water from those watersheds if you get high water conditions and it backflows. So in some cases, it's a little tricky.
Okay.
But the distinction between local and total is to try and distinguish between the total amount of area that could be potentially contributing drainage to that water body
Okay.
versus like what's just providing the runoff without going through anything else.
And I noticed Downs only has one number on there. Is that because it's landlocked and?
Yeah, so no other water bodies are draining to Downs Lake.
Okay.
And again, it's a little bit of a judgment call or arbitrary distinction in the sense that, you know, a lot of watersheds drain to a pond or a wetland before they reach the terminal or endpoint water body.
Mhm.
You know, that those are still included in the local watershed versus being deemed significant enough that they get their own watershed. And so part of it is just what's a reasonable organizational level.
Mm.
But I think sequentially, I think we probably should make sure that the first time we mention that term, it's defined.
Any other comments or questions or suggestions? Great.
Question for you guys. Right now, it's presented as section 5 of the plan. It could also be included as an appendix to the plan. I don't know if you have a preference for that. I mean, it is rather detailed, but either way, I don't know what your preference might be on that. We can revisit that after you look at the plan in its totality as well. I'm just
Right.
thinking about the rest of the plan will be, in terms of the total length of the plan, this will probably be about half of it. So,
Oh,
yeah,
so. So we can discuss including it or making it.
Yeah.
the appendix. But the main thing is that electronically it will have easy access,
right now, I
easily
think
accessible.
with the 2015 plan, there's a separate PDF that you can click to for each one of these.
Okay.
Sub-watershed sections. We can do that for the, for this next generation plan as well.
This is more of a technical question, but did anything, I know when Woodbury was moving forward with the East Woodbury AUAR, they had plans to put in quite a few wells that one opinion was that if all ones could really drop base flows in the Valley Creek. But, and I know that they had to pull way back on that, but did any wells go forward in that part of Woodbury that might be impacting Valley Creek? Do we know?
Mr. President, Joe Vice President Para, originally they were planning, it's either 15 or 16 wells in the east well field. And they put in one and continued to monitor the base flows. They were allowed to put in 3, and all the others had to be moved closer to Cottage Grove. So they put in 3 wells, and City of Woodbury was doing monitoring of there's a groundwater network just upstream of where the perennial portion of Valley Creek starts, and the city was monitoring those wells as well as baseball in Valley Creek. I don't know if they continue doing that. I'm guessing they haven't, but they did that for probably at least 5 years. The DNR seemed satisfied with that.
The silence is deafening. How are we doing, folks? Okay,
So,
yes, sir.
if you have any specific comments, feel free to forward those
Right.
offline as well. The next time you see that there are 38 sub-watershed sections, this is the first 20 by the final 18 next time around, with the complete plan. And there'll be section 5 then, but we can talk about whether or not it should be moved to an appendix. There is no critical information in these sub-watershed sections that's not also referenced in the other sections, in the sense that the final section of each sub-watershed section, which describes what's going to happen or what has recently happened and is planned for each of those sub-watersheds, will also be in the overall implementation table that's in the implementation section. So these are essentially like pulling out what's relevant for the particular watershed from that master table.
Sir, Valley Creek Watershed Management Actions, it doesn't appear to be any mention of the most recent grant from the auto fund. Would we want to have that included there?
The recently implemented project or one that's planned?
Well, yeah, I think there's a couple of things that are missing from, I guess it's the very last page, 142. That first list of 3 bullets. I can work with Greg to get those on.
Good, okay. Very good.
Looks good.
Gentlemen. Greg, once again, I compliment you. For the detailed work.
Thank you. John already had a note in there when I go to the list. It says check with Josh, there's probably more.
By
Didn't get to Josh before.
all means,
So,
if anybody needs anything else.
John was already on top of it.
Good. And it's going to come to our attention again anyway,
Yes.
when we finalize. But we might have more.
Yep, along those lines, just another plan update. We, based on your feedback last summer, we sent a draft of the content that had been developed thus far to a board conservationist, Michelle. She has since moved on from Bowser, but she did provide comments on the draft goals before leaving, providing some suggestions about how to make some of those more measurable. That's a big sticking point for Bowser. And so I will also likely be bringing back the goals to this group for some potential modifications to make them either more specific in terms of the goal language or in the ways that we anticipate measuring those goals during implementation.
All right. You bring that to our attention again, of course.
Yes.
Okay. Seems to be enough. All right. Think you'll make it home before the sun goes?
I don't think so. I think we're past those days.
You're done.
That'd have to be a pretty short meeting.
Right. One more. This is completely irrelevant. Do they have a similar accent to the people in Massachusetts when you're up in Maine? Because I don't detect.
Down East Maine has an exaggerated Boston accent.
I don't know. I hear a spectrum from all the way from New Jersey
Oh,
up through Maine.
Yeah.
And whereas the New Jersey is a little nasally, like Jersey Shore type accent, to a little bit more drawl as you go up. There's no R's in up where I'm from.
talk the cow.
Exaggerated Boston accent.
You can get a burger, but you can't get a burger. That's what I think.
Not a farmer, it's a farmer. How do you say it?
Farmer, yeah.
How often do you get back there?
About once a year. We'll make it this year. but-
Keep an ear open for any moose hunting opportunities. Non-residents, please.
Yeah,
I'm getting desperate.
forget it. That's all.
They've got a good moose herd in northwest Maine. It's like the most
Oh, yeah.
desolate part
I
of the
mean-
lower 48.
And we used to always be hearing about, not so much hunting, but like, people would be killed because they'd be on these back roads,
Yeah.
like us driving up to Quebec City and run into a moose and comes right through the windshield because they're so tall.
Wow.
But yeah, there's quite a few.
My brothers used to go camping up to Baxter State Park like once a year. And they had to stop showing my mom the pictures because there was so many beer cans littering.
We went up there with Boy Scouts, we were canoeing through the river and now moose was just swimming right by us. We're just,
It's on. Okay.
but like, yeah, Boy Scouts do also, many of the photos have little corners cut out of the photo because of the beer cans all like around. Didn't want those around the kids.
Boy Scouts. Very good, sir. Okay. Just had to make that cultural connection. So
Appreciate it.
we're all good. Okay. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much.
We're gonna go ahead and move on to our next item.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thanks, Chris.
This one's a little interesting. And I'm gonna ask, engineer to lead us into this and explain it. And I'm also gonna ask, our secretary, any commentary you might have, because this seems like a very interesting one for us.
And also President Marchand, I'll
Yes,
make
sir.
some comments because I have some ownership and I have ownership in some of this as well. So,
Really?
yeah,
Very
let
good.
John lead the way, but
I look
I'll
forward
own
to
up to my.
I look forward for all it's all the input. Okay. Sure, go ahead, sir.
Mr. President, board issued a permit for this in late 2021. And it's for a home and a long driveway. And typical with those permits, the board imposed a condition that said a rainwater garden of a certain size and depth needed to be constructed,
Right.
or the equivalent BMP needs to be constructed. The plans that were submitted at the time showed rainwater gardens. But, they have the right to do whatever they want according to the rules, according to the condition. They, also, the condition of the permit is that it needs to be a drainage easement over the stormwater BMP. They, instead of constructing the rainwater garden, they constructed a prairie, which is fine. Just like if you remember a project a year and a half ago at Torrey Pines in Lake Elmo, they didn't want to do a rainwater garden. They used the green space in that situation to be their best management practices. The watershed district required a drainage easement over that green space because it was required as part of meeting the condition of the permit,
And they comply.
and they complied. So in this situation, they constructed this prairie. We're telling them that, well, in order to close out the permit and comply with the permit, we need to have easement over 0.63 acres of this prairie. As based on our calculations, that would provide the equivalent stormwater quality treatment as a rain garden. The response that Josh got, received back from the permit holder was that after consideration, he doesn't want to give up that 0.63 acres of easement on his property, and he plans to remove the prairie and construct a rain garden. So before he did that, Josh and I talked and said, well, let's bring this to the board, have that discussion, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to dig up a prairie that
No.
is doing its job. It's just that the condition of the permit says he needs to be a drainage easement. Another factor in this is that the watershed district gave him a stewardship grant. And that paid for $2,500 of the prairie. The prairie is larger than it needs to be in order to conform to the watershed district's rule. With that stewardship grant, he signed an agreement saying that he'd keep it in place for 10 years. So not permanently, but for 10 years. So the question before the board is, do we go back to the landowner and say, we need a permanent easement over a stormwater BMP that conforms to the rules? That can be the prairie or it can be a rain garden. If you dig up the prairie, we're gonna ask for that $2,500 back. Because that was part of the agreement that you keep the prairie in place for 10 years.
Okay.
And you'd still have to
And you
do
still
an
have,
easement.
and you still have to give us an easement over whatever you plan to control your stormwater.
Counselor,
Yeah,
you ready?
so I had a conversation with them.
You did.
Yeah, very polite, by the way.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Very, yeah, very, very polite. But my thought, as just throwing this out there, is if they then want to do the or to put an easement over the prairie, but still installed rain gardens, and the rain gardens would do what they're supposed to do and put easements over those rain gardens, but not the prairie, maybe that's okay. The concern I have with saying 10 years is sufficient is part of the reason you're doing this is so that future property owners can't rip up the prairie. And now you've got stormwater that isn't being treated the way it's supposed to be. Right, that's one of the reasons. I mean, now if you had a maintenance agreement over it, that's something. It's more, I mean, part of what I tell property owners is part of the reason you're doing this is to let future property owners know there is something there that needs to be maintained. What the easement does is it puts in a restriction then that you can't change it without permission. So that's my thought, but I think Jeff wanted to.
Well,
Yes, please.
I got a call from the homeowner and he asked me to come out and meet with him. And his father, who used to be a farmer and does some grading, and they said, let's talk about the rain gardens. talk about the location. You know, on the west side of the driveway, there's a lot of utilities there. It's not an ideal place. As I looked at it, I said, well, wait, you've got all kinds of utilities here. You can't be digging. As I looked at the grading of the site, and it previously was a hayfield. And I looked at it and I said, this is one giant rain garden. Why are we putting rain gardens in here? Because it's a gentle slope that comes down into a hayfield. And he told me that he wanted to convert it to prairie. I said, well, okay, that's a win-win. I asked Alyssa Thompson to stop by. I said, Alyssa, will you give me your opinion? When you get a chance, stop by here, look at this site. We've got a prescribed 2 rain garden situation here. There's utilities on one side of the driveway. I could certainly go on the other side of the driveway, but is a rain garden really going to be that effective, or are we just better to let the guy go with the prairie? I don't know all the other probably rules, so I was thinking about that green space scenario because he seemed so adamant that he wanted to convert it to prairie, and I thought, well, that's a win for everybody. So, but he doesn't want to give up that 0.63 acres of an easement, and actually I wouldn't either. I wouldn't want to myself, to be honest with you. I would say, well, that's just too much. I'll give you an easement over the amount of square footage that the rain gardens would have been. I know there's a calculation that says this much, the rain garden will take up this much, but the whole thing is a field. Those soils are all identical. And
Yeah, but the point of the rainwater garden is that it captures it, so you can keep on flowing. This prairie is more sheet flow throughout. And so that's why it takes up a little bit more area. 0.63 acres according to the calculations compared to a rain garden that is more of a.
Is this the-
a spot.
Is that a half acre that he could, it's essentially half acre, so.
Is it right in the corner of
Perhaps
his
he could
post?
build on it in the future.
No, it has to be used as, he could convert it to, he could vacate the prairie easement and construct something else that would manage the stormwater according to Valley Branch rules.
That's what.
But if he
that's the
didn't
rules
have
that they
to
had, right?
meet his permit condition, that
That huge
rules say
white
it needs to be
house.
in the easement. Or if Attorney Torset says, you know, we could work on some sort of permanent maintenance plan over this without having to have an easement, maybe that would meet the intent of the rule.
Thank you.
Maybe. I did also talk to him about, because he raised a concern about how much land would be covered by an easement. In our conversation, I said, well, you know, get a future, it said, the purpose is that a future property owner can't just rip up the prairie and turn it into a concrete pad. I mean, they probably have to get a permit anyway, but that's the idea, right? Or put it into turf grass, right? Right now it has a purpose. But if you had a future homeowner who wanted to do that, they could come to the district and say, well, great, we love rainwater gardens, you know, we'll put in a rain garden. And the district could deal with it at that time. You didn't think, I mean, people don't like putting easements on their lands. People see an easement, they think restriction, they don't like it. So.
We get that. So what we're looking to do is, this is my thought. Mr. Brocky will weigh in, of course. How can we satisfy this person and their whims, if I'm using that word properly, and conform to our rules, regulations and policies and all the things that we do so that everybody's happy? So we're gonna go about finding an answer here tonight if possible. Sir.
I just, as I went through this, I jotted some notes. Number one, I don't think the guy's really gonna tear the prairie up. I think that was just some bluster, you know,
Yeah.
that's neither
Why?
here nor there.
Why would
but-
he do that if he was friendly and all?
The thing that popped in my mind is our discussions we've had previously on easement issues. You know, we're talking about these alternative maintenance agreements, and I was just wondering if there was something along those lines that might. I know it's not in accordance specifically with our rules at this time, but is there something along those lines that might serve the intended purpose here?
Well, what you could record is, I mean, it has to be recorded anyway as a maintenance agreement. Because that hasn't been recorded either for this, so the Valley Ranch rule for the rules that apply to this permit require two documents to be recorded. A maintenance agreement and an easement, right? And the maintenance agreement says, how does the stormwater management need to be managed and maintained in perpetuity? And the easement says, well, you can't modify whatever this is, up to the 100-year flood elevation, whatever that is on the property. So we don't even know, is there more that could be? I mean, I know we're just focusing on the stormwater BMP, but is there more on the land that could,
No, we're only talking stormwater, we're not talking floodplain, there's no.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
And then we're nowhere near floodplain. This is up on the high ground,
How big is this
Okay.
piece of property by chance? Its
at
totality,
least 40 acres,
40 acres?
at least. I think
It
he
appears that he
more
might
than
be subdividing, because it's a little bit
Yeah,
that's
confusing.
what I was
to
thinking.
Look at,
He owns also the trading post.
Okay,
He owns quite a bit.
So you could just do the maintenance agreement. That basically says, it doesn't define. There's no, because it's not an easement, it doesn't have a legal description created by a surveyor. Basically, what it says is on this land, and we use the legal description for the entire 40 acres. On this land, there is stormwater management practice and it needs to be maintained. And then you try and say, well, whatever it is, it needs, it needs weeding, it needs, if it gets plugged up, which isn't gonna be the case in a prairie, it needs dredging, right? Whatever the case may be. So that's what the maintenance agreement would say, if it's just a maintenance agreement.
okay. We implement a maintenance agreement, excuse me. Ask him. He says no. What's our next move?
I don't
Oh
think
my
he's
God.
opposed to maintenance agreement. I think he doesn't want any easement.
I get that. Can we avoid an easement?
you need to amend your permit, because your permit requires it.
Ouch. Okay,
Would we be able to propose a easement for rain garden? So much smaller, and then have the maintenance agreement explain that there's a prairie here and that is serving as the EMP. If that prairie goes away, then there's still the need for the the rain garden portion of it.
So in essence, it would be, Bill, this is fun, a springing obligation. It's contingent,
Yeah.
right? If the prairie is removed, then or reduced below 0.63 acres, the property owner is obligated to install a rainwater garden at this location.
Yeah.
And if they fail to, then the watershed has an enforceable action against the property owner at that time.
His real problem seems to be the easement and not the prairie itself. I mean, Jeff's talking about he could do more prairie in there, and so he does it, so. Am I reading that right? So it's just, he's just threatening to tear it up because he doesn't want an easement over it.
does he,
Well-
if he tears it out, isn't he still required to have an easement?
It would be much smaller
The easement would be much smaller.
because he'd have to put in a rain garden.
Yeah, I get
It'd be
that.
much smaller. So the easement would only be over the rain garden and access to the public road.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this now. 3,250 square feet is 0.075 acres, which is a little smaller than 6 acres. I mean, the thing is that it seems a shame if you put that prairie in, they have them rip it out.
Sure.
And we should try to avoid that, because it's
Yeah,
just,
that's what we're
for
trying.
that prairie has huge natural benefits, so. I mean, just go ahead and put a small little tiny rain garden then, relative to the prairie, but keep the rest of the prairie there.
A rain garden easement.
Just the rain garden.
What's that?
rain
Make it a
garden.
rain garden easement.
That satisfies.
Right, but he's got an easement on 0.075 acres instead of on 6.
Yeah.
So,
And he and any future property owner are precluded from that wherever that easement gets staked out.
Right.
They can't put a shed there, they can't extend the driveway there, right? That's what that would mean, and he doesn't care.
But he's,
so.
he agreed to the permit, right? And that's what the permit said.
Mhm. You are correct.
And
And-
we gave him some money.
Yeah,
And you're holding $5,000 shirt.
And we're holding a $5,000 shirt.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's look at another thought.
Can we work with him to put in this rain garden in a place that will be functional and he'll be okay with having a small easement there? And in exchange for him, maybe agreeing to keep the prairie.
Well, you can just have, go ahead and put it where it's on the plan, because on each side of the driveway. I just wanted them to avoid putting it in where all the utilities came in. All the utilities came in right on that southwest corner of the driveway. He certainly could put something there or on the other side. There's plenty of room for a rain garden.
So,
I guess, I just, just from my experience and my looking at the topography and what was going on there, I just felt like it already is a rain garden. This whole thing is a giant rain garden. I know there's sheet flow, but when you've got a prairie with deep rooted plants that go down 12 or 15 feet, there's not a big gully there. There's the road right there. I just, it does drain. I mean, I imagine this property does eventually drain towards Trading Post and to the Valley Creek itself. So it certainly fit in that area. But anyway, we certainly could go back and ask them to just put the rain garden in and give us the easement for the rain garden and call it a day.
But why even have him do the rain garden if he's gonna leave the prairie? I mean, just get the easement.
I
mean,
agree.
it's-
I think we're,
It seems like that's easier for everybody.
oh, it is. I agree with that. I
And
agree.
he's gonna have the easement either way.
Yeah.
I don't know. maybe-
Right.
Susanna, what do you think about, Commander Gelman's suggestion?
I think I'm just gonna call it a springing right, or the contingent right of the district to enforce that an easement or the rain garden would have to be built if the prairie is ever reduced to below 0.63 acres.
Yeah.
Would be an acceptable solution. I bet he'd go for it.
Mhm.
Because he would need to, and I don't know if he would have fought to put the easement if he installed the rain gardens. I don't know if he'd be unhappy with that. I think it's really the fact that it's over half an acre.
Mhm.
That's tough for him.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go with that proposal and see what he says.
Susanna,
Mhm.
as a process point, the permit
Does that
that's
fit
included
for
in the
you?
packet, it starts on page
Yeah.
3 of this item. Number 13, says that the district should be granted drainage easements. Would the board need to take action to retract that condition in order to do this?
I don't think so because an easement is being granted.
Okay.
An easement will be recorded over the land. However, I think I probably might have a resolution just to approve it, just so there's a more thoroughly expressed record and, outlined and thought through record that the managers accepted. I don't really think you're necessarily modifying you are. Because right now, as it stands, the stormwater management practice is the prairie. And that's what it's going to be for the foreseeable future. So according to district rules, it should be that entire prairie.
It's
So
0.63 acres.
0.63 acres of the entire prairie. So if there's, so this is a deviation, but I think there's sound rationale for it, and it's almost like a tweaking of the rules.
Right,
But it is, I think it's sufficient enough that there, would be an amendment to that particular part of the.
this one's more of curiosity, but I'm interested. Why did he suddenly decide that he didn't want an easement there?
He didn't suddenly decide.
No?
So what he told me is he had a developer who worked with the district to get the permit to do everything. And he, the homeowner, was not made aware of this requirement until way down the road. He said, I didn't really like the way the easements looked. Or the rain garden waters, the rain gardens. He said, I didn't think they were aesthetically pleasing and I was looking for some other option. And then I think he probably talked to Jeff, and then that continued on. So it sounds like, I mean, this is also a scenario where he had a developer, a builder help him, and there was some lost in communication and translation, because I had sent a letter when the permit was issued with outlining that this information was needed. But it's not uncommon when I send it to a developer that nothing happens with it.
The developer didn't, they didn't put any of that into the grading plan when they did the grading. They didn't, I don't even think, I'm not even sure that the culvert got put in the right place. I think the culvert ended up in a halfway down the driveway, which is fine, but I think there was some changes there and the homeowner didn't know.
Yeah, so everything might have been great with between the homeowner and the builder, but as far as enacting the district's rules and requirements, it wasn't as good as it could be.
So the builder put in for the permit? Is his name on it?
The permit is attached, the applicant is the builder and the homes, the agent is with Civil Methods and the owner. They all signed it.
They all
They
signed
received copies of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying he didn't receive it. That's not what I'm saying, but I don't think it's totally uncommon. And this is sort of I'm not saying it's a good excuse. You asked why. I'm telling you why.
No,
He didn't read the permit. He relied on his builder.
I get it. What I'm trying to determine, this is all understood. I want everybody, and this is me, everybody else's input is more than welcome, of course. But I don't want to get tough with him because in our history, we don't get tough with people if we don't have to, right? And as far as I know, we haven't done that. So I'd like to avoid that without a doubt. But also, he has to comply with something or we can rescind it. But now it's too late, right? Because it's in place. And they've modified the property. We found out about it. They disturbed more than 6,000 square feet. So now they have to comply with our rules, right?
Mhm.
So what do? We tell them, you're in non-compliance. So you have to leave it. And then he goes in and says, hey, tough beans. And he yanked that out with his front end loader or something.
Well, Mr. President, I think,
That's one
I
scenario.
think what Manager Gelman suggested is if you're looking to work with him, I think Manager Gelman's suggestion does that, accomplishes that. If he rips out the prairie, he has to give Valley Branch $2,500 back.
You think that's sufficient?
He has to give us that back, but he also has to then establish a rain garden.
Well, wasn't the original?
And the easement
I'm
is
reading this as
established
The
now.
original permit was for a rain garden. And he
A
just,
rain guard or equivalent. The prairie is equivalent, it just
Yeah.
needs to be bigger than the rain guard.
but if we were initially going to accept the rain garden
What's going on?
as part of the permit,
Oh.
then I'm still struggling with, why can't we just work with him to put in a small rain garden to meet the conditions of the permit and ask him to please keep the prairie because it's valuable.
We could do that, but doesn't he also have to give us the easement?
Yes, whatever he does for stormwater management, the rule says give us an easement.
That's what.
Unless you follow.
So he doesn't, he's not even happy with a 0.07 acre easement on some,
No, I haven't had that conversation with him. His issue was over half an acre easement. He said, that's too much. We haven't
Right.
talked at all about a 0.075, right? I mean, I haven't had that conversation with him.
We get,
He even said, I'll rip out the prairie and just put the rain gardens in the easements.
Well, he didn't say that in the easements, he just got the rain garden.
Oh,
We don't know about the easement.
okay, well,
but rain garden or not, he's required to give us an easement for the 0.63 acres. That's what's going
Not
on.
necessarily the
No?
0.63, you were saying,
an easement for
smaller-
whatever BMP he chooses.
Okay,
And maybe a 0.07 acre rain garden is acceptable to him. We don't know that yet.
that's even bigger, right? Okay.
but it seems like it'd be even more acceptable to not have to do any of that additional work
Yeah,
and just put an easement over that rain
Yeah.
garden area and let the prairie be there.
right.
Okay, that's all. That's
Well, we're
fine
doing is
and dandy.
assuring things down the road.
I mean,
We
30th
like
is,
that.
30th is starting to dip down there, right, at their place, and you would think you could put a rain garden, no, it's not.
Well, it's pretty flat. It starts to slope to the east, but where his house is, it's really sloped towards the road. You know, so yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I think the rain garden location on the plan would catch anything sheet flowing from the house and in the driveway, but so would the prairie.
All right.
I'm not
Just
understanding.
Yeah.
to avoid further confusion in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
so he puts in a rain garden. Right? How much of an easement is required for the rain garden?
That's what you,
0.07.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what vice
So
president.
if I did my conversion right now,
Okay, so that's considerably smaller than.
I took 3,250 feet
Okay.
and I converted it to acres, and it was.
All right, so can we ask him to do that? What
That's
Rick
what's in-
suggested?
That's what's in the permit.
Yeah.
Just have an easement for that, not put in the garden. Is there some reason you want the rain garden put in?
Just to settle this dispute with the landowner, so he abides by the permit and he keeps his prairie.
Right.
If he goes back to a rain garden, he agrees to a little small easement on that rain garden. If he's happy with that, he satisfies the permit and we get a free 0.6 acre prairie out of the deal.
Well,
Wait,
2,500 bucks
Wait a minute.
that we gave him for
But you're
the,
saying to actually physically put in the rain garden?
What's that?
Actually put in the rain garden
Yeah.
physically?
because he has to.
Why?
Because he's saying he doesn't want an easement, so he's gonna tear up the prairie and put.
But he's
in-
gonna have the easement anyway.
But what I'm saying is that right now, he's looking at a 0.63 acre easement because the prairie is
Right.
BMP right now.
Okay,
Scratch the prairie as a BMP and put in a little bitty rain garden and see if he's happy with a little bitty easement on a small rain garden instead of 2/3 of an acre.
yeah. And I'm going easier on him than that, I think, in what I'm proposing. And that is leave the rain garden. He was initiating it. And only put an easement on the 0.075 acres. So that if down the road prairie disappears, then we've got an easement already in place and where that rain garden would go.
Yeah, I don't think we have any, if we agree to this, we wouldn't have any legal basis to keep in the prairie. We would just hope that the prairie.
No, we wouldn't have any legal
We-
basis
we
for
just
keeping
hope
the
that
prairie
the
other than the
prairie would
10
stay.
years
I mean, if you're
that he's agreed to.
10 years.
Yeah,
He's already agreed to 10 years, but beyond 10 years, no.
Yeah.
And you don't have that right now anyway, so.
President Mark,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Jeff and Jeff.
Yeah.
We're just, right now, we're looking at prairie or rain garden. I have not seen this site. I've got a picture in my mind of what it looks like from Jeff's description. But would an option be just a low berm at the low end of this thing? It's not a rain garden like we typically think. It just come across and then we get an easement on that berm.
So this is the house.
Yeah.
This is the road. This is one rain garden where all the utilities are. This is the other corner. The water flows here anyway. We could just ask for an easement in that the amount that we need. He doesn't have to do anything.
Well, that's not equivalent though, Jeff.
It's not equivalent.
It has to be equivalent. I'm just saying that this area is a rain garden. It's not a
Okay.
rain garden. It
Okay,
has to.
it has to be a
capture the water.
depression.
It has to be a depression so that. the
Of a
water
half
can
a
continue to
foot.
Flow down.
Well,
Okay.
that's what I was
Well, that's
asking,
easy
is
enough
rather
to
than
do.
an excavated depression like we typically think of for rain garden, is there
Yeah,
just a
something like
low-
that
a
could.
low berm that,
Exactly.
and that gives us the volume we need?
It's likely gonna be larger than the area in the permit, but. you-
Yeah.
Right, because
Right.
we've got two
But it's-
sides here.
But it's gonna be down, down in this corner along here and
Well,
maybe.
or he could
Where's the
use this
prairie?
over here. This is.
Most of the over palatial.
You would rip
So
that out?
costs us-
This is
gonna
gonna
be
be
unlikely.
No.
Well, I agree with you, if his issue's just having a smaller.
I mean, I
build a
think
rain garden,
that's a
put
question.
an easement over
When they think
that.
rain garden, they're thinking that special vegetation and everything. And maybe an
This is the
alternative
road,
like
this is the house,
Yeah,
driveway.
We tell people all the time.
These were the rain gardens were originally gonna go.
And now this is all prairie
This
instead.
is all prairie. This is all. prairie.
Landscape looking area, so it could be Wales.
We wanna do something.
Yeah.
about
Does if he doesn't build the-
But it captures.
In the utility there, is the other rain garden sufficient?
According to the rules.
Yeah, I mean,
the-
you could still do something here. It's just like when you start going to excavating, there's gas and
Yeah,
power and,
Yeah.
and
So by doing this.
phone,
we modify
everything
our
coming in
permit?
which
all along
presumably has the
here.
utility easement over it anyway.
It's all coming in along here. So that's why that's not
The
ideal. but-
permit says you
Yeah.
need to construct a stormwater BMP that conforms to
So you
the
could-
rules.
Got it.
And you need to-
Yeah.
that's the whole- that's the whole
Yeah.
BMP.
Sure.
He can do whatever stormwater
Yeah.
BMP,
Just the
whatever
thing is
whatever he
that
wants, but it needs to be.
Because of the
located.
degree of disturbance.
He refuses right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we figure out?
I guess my
Maybe.
question is,
All right, John, John's
For
for
John is-
I think that'll work.
would it be worth it just to go back to them and just look at the site with them?
Of
and
course.
Say, is there something along the, some stormwater BMP that would be more palatable to you, that would be a smaller footprint? And,
You could send
rather
it-
than the 0.63 acres.
Not trying to sound facetious or anything, we could send a delegation. We've done this before, by the way, you recall.
Yeah,
That one gentleman when we were changing that erosion
right.
spot. We talked to him, or Susanna, you wouldn't blow it, would you? I'm kidding. I don't want to just talk to him on the phone. I want somebody to come out there. Jeff, of course.
It's almost a neighborhood to be happy to go.
He's a neighbor. You go over there with some old fashioned
He lives to the
and
north.
talk to him and see what
He's not a
you
neighbor, but he lives just.
I get it,
quite
I
a
get
ways to the north. I bike by his place when I'm biking.
This is the, John has it in the packet. That's the Prairie BMP, this whole thing,
for us, Susanna.
Mhm.
that whole area.
Yeah.
Where
Oh, and the rain garden.
He's reneging on a permit?
Not,
No?
not if you, that's why I said I would recommend you pass a resolution that accepts this plan. This is,
I'm hearing two different divisions on the board.
Yeah.
One division is saying we have to have the easement, we have to have the BMP in place now. I'm hearing this side of the table saying, let's just require the easement if the prairie disappears in the future.
right, in which case that's when you would need a resolution. If he installs a rain garden and puts an easement over the rain garden, you don't need any modification. Your permit requirements have been met.
And he would be amenable to that, right?
We don't
They
know.
don't know.
We
No, I don't
know.
know, but what's your feeling, what's your take? Because we're trying to come up with a solution
I
here, and we're
haven't
gonna
had-
try to approach
I
it.
think it requires a conversation with him.
Exactly.
What I'd like tonight is to understand if the board is open to what Rick suggested, or if the board is on this side of the table saying, no, we need a drainage easement and a BMP.
Let me understand something.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's coming down from this side of the table. He had a level of disturbance to put in the house that requires a BMP from the district. If he's putting in a BMP, then he's required to put an easement on the BMP from the district. He's opposed to an easement on his property. We're trying to find a way for him to do a BMP with a little bitty easement that he can keep. And maybe in the goodness of his heart, he'll keep that big ass prairie he put in as well.
Right.
That's my simple logic of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Rick said.
That's what I'd like
It's
to
close
see.
to what I said,
Yeah,
but the part that I don't think is necessarily needed
yeah.
is that the BMP be changed. He's already got a BMP that satisfies, our conditions. If we lock ourselves into, we've got an easement that he's registered and it's the 0.075 one, then if he stops having the prairie as his BMP, then we've got an alternative. We got
Right.
something to come back on.
What is the alternative?
The alternative is you took away the prairie, now you need to put a BMP on the easement areas only.
So then you would have to go back to a
Yeah.
small rain garden.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Is
you
that,
would only need to do that if the prairie disappeared as the
okay, is
BMP.
that consistent? Is that okay with our rules?
What I'm saying is you'd have to do a resolution agreeing to modify the permit
Okay.
No,
and explain the.
but it's
rationale.
not, it's not creating a really bizarre exception to our rules that could be problematic for us.
I'd have to do a little more.
precedent.
I don't know about the precedent though.
No?
I mean, because what you're saying to people is if you don't want a big easement, but you want a prairie, then you don't have to build a rain garden. You have the prairie and then we'll do the easement the size of what the rain garden would be rather than the prairie.
Yeah.
I mean,
He should be amenable to that. It seems reasonable. That's
I think
all.
it's reasonable for him to build the small rain garden at the end of the driveway, get
Sure.
a small easement over that. And I just it doesn't sit right with me to have an easement over something that's, where we can have an easement over the prairie, which wouldn't be sufficient to cover the prairie because that BMP wouldn't meet it. And then have them just do a small easement and a rain garden at the end of the driveway.
The confusion came between the homeowner and the builder.
Right.
Yeah,
And we're kind of stuck in the middle, and I feel
Sure.
comfortable saying that. And now we have to conform to our rules, but we are amenable to making these changes so that we can satisfy, client, customer, homeowner, constituent, and we're satisfying the protection of our water resource and what we're doing. And the prairie gets left alone, right? So we're okay. Right?
no, that's-
I'm confused on
Yeah.
what the direction is from the board. Is the direction that he needs to build the rain garden or he needs to build a BMP
Right.
and needs to give the Watershed District a drainage easement over that BMP now? That's that option. Or is the option, just give us a drainage easement over a future BMP in case your existing BMP goes away?
that's the,
Is that what you're thinking, Rick?
What if we present them both, if both options are solve the problem, why don't we present them the two options?
Well, I'm not hearing concurrence from the board. I'm hearing this side saying
And
no
what,
to this.
I just suggested concurrence. If these are both viable options, we both have rather subjective opinions as to which one is better. But we think right now that our legal staff thinks that either is okay. Why don't we bring them both options to
Yes.
see which one works for us?
Because you're gonna go talk to them, you're gonna present this and hopefully they'll say, okay, we're fine.
what about having them in to a meeting? And explain his position rather than sending out the
It's my
delegation.
opinion to have, these gentlemen or somebody speak to him. Because I don't want to inconvenience him, and I'm saying that because of the nature of what he wrote. That's what I'm looking at, that's what this is all based on. That is my opinion. So I think if we talk to him, yes, counselor,
So here's my suggestion.
yes,
I think what reduces the likelihood of someone saying there was a precedence set of modifying your rules. The first approach is to say, here's what the managers recommend. And it doesn't follow what you're saying, Rick, but to say, build the rain garden, put the easement over it, then no easements required over the prairie. See what he says. If there's a lot of pushback, then I could say, well, maybe I'll talk to the board about
Yeah,
the springing right. What would you think about that? And I can go, but and I can go to the board with that
Yeah.
possibility.
It's
And
a
I'm not gonna
negotiation.
pretend like I'm just coming up with it because that would be deceptive. I'm not gonna do that, but I could say there was discussion of this option, but there wasn't concurrence. But if you would do this first one where you do that, because then we don't have to do a resolution, then we don't have to modify your.
But Suzanne, he's already said, the quote says, I'll build a rain garden, but I'm gonna rip up the prairie.
Right, so what I'm trying to do, John, is say, don't rip up the prairie.
Yeah.
Put in the rain garden.
Pretty
put the
please,
easement
sugar
over
on
it, but
top.
Don't rip up the prairie.
We get that prairie, we just.
That's what we're looking for.
We need to.
Does that make sense?
Over 0.63 acres of it.
John,
He's the one that chose to rip.
that makes sense.
Right, but he isn't, so what I'm trying, I mean, it's actually my first proposal was to the managers was that he put in a rain garden.
We brought this up. And
Put
we
an
got
easement
caught
over it.
In the middle with this.
But we've got,
Sorry.
That's okay, we're listening
have
to what
to-
you're saying.
we have to get this resolved so it satisfies the requirements of the watershed district.
Right,
Above and beyond that, I want to see us try to retain that prairie somehow as well.
yeah.
and that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
We're gonna ask him. We're gonna work with him as best we can. As I said earlier, that wasn't a joke. Pretty pleased with sugar on top, like Mr. Wolf.
And
Well, should we
and
also,
it's worthwhile including in there is, well, if you rip up the
you
prairie,
gotta pay us
you
25.
signed an agreement
Yeah.
saying there's,
Exactly.
the $2,500 would be
Please, sir,
returned.
Consider this, yeah.
There's that pushback, I can say another idea that was tossed out there was this, but there wasn't concurrence by the entire board. If you're dead set against putting in a rain garden with an easement, what about this possibility? But the first option will be put in the rain garden, then you only have an easement over a small portion of the land, the prairie stays. Because I don't think he wants to rip it up either. He told me he invested 10,000 of his own money to put it.
That's right.
So
So,
he's not really interested. I don't think it would be his preference. He's just saying, to me, the burden of putting over half an acre in an easement is, that's a principal thing for me. I'd rather lose the money than put the easement on there. Right or wrong, that's where his brain is.
right, I'm happy.
But I don't know that he feels that way about a smaller portion. So why don't I approach him with that option?
Both of those proposals reduce the size of the easement.
Mhm.
Mr. Brock, go for
Yes.
it.
Is this a situation that maybe justifies an on-site visit, or would that be helpful or not helpful, John, do you think? To have yourself and maybe a board member or two?
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful.
I think a small contingent, not
Right.
all 5 members.
No,
One
no,
or
I'm not
two
suggesting that.
maximum.
We'll bring up.
I'm suggesting 3 people, maybe totally.
I think that would be beneficial.
He's also very
Just-
nice.
He is, okay then.
Even when he was saying, I don't like it, he wasn't angry. He just didn't want to do it.
We just read this and we go, okay. So in any case, that was my thinking in the beginning. What is required? Because John brings his stuff up and says, hey, look, this is what he did. This is compliance. So we try to satisfy that and satisfy what our constituent wants, but we don't want to lose something on this.
Maybe Jeff, Josh, and Don.
Don, would you like to do that?
Yeah, I'd be happy.
You've got skills, yeah?
Yeah.
You're not gonna go in as a DNR or anything, right?
We'll be drinking Bud Light, the guy on his torch by the time we're done. Just kidding.
No, he's very nice, he's very cooperative. I feel bad because
Kind of flies in the face of what he wrote.
I got it going in this direction, so
Well,
I'll take
and
ownership.
it's fine.
Yeah,
It's just that
yeah,
the equivalent is a
Yeah.
lot larger area.
that's what
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was missing that piece of information.
Ouch, like at the Torrey Pines site that you talked about a year ago, that was a very large drainage easement, or easement on that site.
But the reason that one worked out, as far as I know, was because while he didn't fulfill one aspect of it, or a condition, he did something else that met the condition so that it was okay, and we gave a surety back.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as this.
Yeah,
The condition says you need to build a rainwater garden this size or equivalent BMP. He did a different kind of equivalent BMP.
right.
And he's not gonna tear out that prairie.
No, well, that saves us a lot of hassle, and it sounds like he's amenable to that, so good. Yes, sir.
One more comment, question, observation.
Yeah.
On our, permits, when we, with the signature sheet where the landowners sign and the applicant sign and we sign and all that. I'm wondering if we don't need to have something in bold and a separate signature for the landowner to acknowledge the easement requirements that is in our permit, so that they don't just see this, see boilerplate and
Right,
sign their name.
that's a brilliant idea. I thought that was understood. Now we have
But
to,
I think something in bold and have the landowner themselves, whoever holds title to that land, sign another signature saying they acknowledge this easement requirement in the permit.
I agree with that. I would like to see it go into statewide real estate law, actually, so it applies to the entire state.
So what one complication with that is,
yeah,
what the permit application form is what you see in the packet.
Right.
They submit that with the permit application. After the board approves it, the conditions in this situation, 1 through 16, get connected to that permit application. So there's no signatures again after the manager's period.
So maybe just easement requirements.
So I think we'd have to have something saying, we need to change this form anyway because it's not ADA compliant.
Yeah.
And we can work with Susanna's office to change the form so that there's some signature that says, I acknowledge that I will be required to have a drainage easement.
That's what I think
let's
we
get
need to
that,
have
let's,
to get these owners on board with this and not be surprised at the end of the. Yeah.
I'm all for drafting it. I just want you to know most people are probably docu-signing. So it's just here, sign this, and
Oh, yeah.
so
Mr. Engineer.
But if it's in bold letters and a separate thing says,
absolutely give it a go, right? All you can do is try.
yeah,
We don't want there to be a conflict in the future.
How many people read all the paperwork during a real estate?
oh my God,
That's because you like it.
Yeah. Just, to follow up with John.
Sign it, sign it.
One of the things that I see is with these individual homes, and sometimes it's like the builders get the whole thing, and then the homeowner says, we're gonna do the landscape. And then that communication drops off, and they say, well, my brother-in-law's a landscaper or whatever, and then they don't exactly do the plan, and, so I do see that's why it's important that the homeowner be aware of it, because hopefully we've got a surety from them or from the builder. I like it when the builder has the whole thing, including the landscaping, because they know they can't close everything out until they put the BMPs in place.
Okay.
But when the homeowners take over, they might do it a year from now.
Thank you, Jeff. So let's put this one away if we could. What are we going to do? We're going to have Attorney Torseth speak to the gentleman and explain, see what he says, and pending that, what another option might be, correct?
Correct.
That simple. All right then. We'll go with that. That seems, you have skills, right?
I'd like to think so.
Confidence.
okay.
Yeah, we don't want him upset with us or anything, but I also see his point. He's like, what? That's half an acre and I can't touch it? What are you kidding? I see that too. Okay. Are the managers satisfied with this? Mr. Bill?
Yeah, I like,
Valley, you're very much.
I'm just glad we don't have 10 of these at every meeting.
Oh,
Well, and that's,
I don't want that to happen.
and that's what I'm trying to avoid, you know,
Yeah, that's-
anyone who doesn't like having an easement comes before the board and complains about it, and then we get thrown down this path. That's why I don't like the precedent of letting him slide, blaming it on his.
Yes, that's a good point. So we are going to work on that. I hope I don't sound too harsh or anything, but we're going to work on changing the permit. Number one, it needs ADA compliance. Number two, we're gonna bring in specific language. And I don't know if you need to bring that before the board, certainly make a draft so that we have further understanding, so that we don't have these misunderstandings with.
As Susanna said, you're still gonna have a misunderstanding because nobody reads anything.
Right, but
But let make a little
Ironclad.
more for and not read.
yeah, we'll be ironclad.
Builder doesn't read the permit either.
Yeah,
Okay, well, then maybe Jeff will use his skills to go, oh, by the way, did you know that you have to give us your firstborn or something like that, right? Okay. Okay. All right, Springs of Lake Elmo. Permit 2019-16. Mr. Engineer, tell us what's happening here,
Sure,
please.
if you'd like to look at the TV screen behind you.
Yep.
It might be helpful.
Yep.
So Inspector Brower has talked about the situation in several meetings. The Springs of Lake Elmo site is located just north of North Frontage Road of I-94, fairly close to the Dairy Queen site. And Tesla is just to the east of the Springs of Lake Elmo site. The red line on this is the approximate property line between the Springs of Lake Elmo and Tesla. Jeff has reported that there's this ongoing runoff that seeps underneath the retaining wall of the Springs of Lake Elmo site. So the Springs of Lake Elmo site sits about 12 feet higher than Tesla site. There's approximately a 12-foot, 14-foot tall retaining wall. Right, you can barely see it right at the edge of the pavement here. So there's water that flows underneath that retaining wall onto the Tesla site. Right where the, I'm sorry, I thought my pointer was showing, so my pointer's not showing, so I'll start here. So this is the property line, there's a retaining wall right in here. That's about 14 feet higher, or the top of it's 14 feet higher than the parking lot to the Tesla. This blue line is where there's this ongoing erosion, because there's water that seeps underneath the toe of the retaining wall. They've done a whole lot of work to try to stop that drainage onto that site. They've lined a pipe in the system. They've done other kind of lining work in that system, and it still leaks. Or there's shouldn't say leaks, there's still water that flows off their property in that area that wasn't intended to flow.
Okay,
They met with the engineer for Springs of Lake Elmo, and their site manager met with Inspector Brower and me virtually last Thursday or Friday, and suggested that instead of continuing to try to stop the water from flowing from their site onto the Tesla site, that they like to stabilize that erosion by putting some riprap on their property in this area, and then putting a turf reinforcement mat. That is, it's a geosynthetic membrane, basically, on the Tesla site, and then put stakes on it for the Tesla site, as it needs to stabilize that to prevent from erosion. There'd still be water that would flow through the riprap and the turf, get onto the Tesla site, flow a little bit, maybe 30 feet or so on the Tesla parking lot, and we get into the catch basin, and then they go to the stormwater facilities.
okay, so very quickly,
So
yes, sir.
we said, well, that seems like maybe a practical solution.
Right.
Stabilizing the erosion based on Inspector Brower's observations that little bit of water isn't gonna be problematic downstream. But I told him, I was like, I really want to talk to the Valley Branch Legal Counsel, because it seems like maybe we need to get a permanent drainage easement over this, because it's gonna be new conveyance. Talked to Susanna.
Yeah.
Susanna advised said that her advice to the board would be, there does need to be a permanent drainage easement over this or some sort of equivalent document. Because that would document that Tesla knows about this drainage.
Oh, yeah.
To their property, and it's using Tesla's property, not only currently with Tesla, but any future landowners, both landowners would then be aware that this drainage is going on.
Yeah, after what we just experienced, we're gonna, having more signatures would be a good idea.
But the drainage easement is not.
I just know that is the permit would, because that's part of their stormwater management, then would be part of that, so they probably would need to have. And I said they didn't on Thursday, but I'm almost wondering if then, because if something happened and it needed maintenance and they didn't maintain it, the district should be able to go in and maintain it.
Or hold them accountable.
So it'd really be two easements. I mean, Tesla needs to have one with Springs, right? There needs to be their own deal, but then there needs to be the ability for Valley Range to go in, or we need to reassess and say what's already on site, right? If there's already easements in place, if there's, because I wouldn't be at all surprised if the plat has drainage and utility easements,
Well,
right, on that section.
the plat would have drainage and utility easements that are offsets from the line, probably 10 feet on both sides.
Yeah, and so
this
probably doesn't
next
need
to the
it.
parking lot, would not have a drainage.
The parking lot wouldn't.
So we don't require anything from Tesla. They don't need to sign off on anything. Yes or no?
I'm thinking now, and I'm sorry, this is new, this is not what I talked to John and
Yeah.
Jeff about, but I'm thinking possibly because if
You saw this, right?
if something is wrong and needs to be maintained and isn't being maintained, the district has to have the right to go in and deal with it.
I
So
thought we were going that way.
So
Right.
the requested manager action is to hear what Susanna's suggestion is and to either agree or disagree with Susanna's suggestion. And I don't know what Susanna's suggestion is necessarily.
Then it's suggestion just modified.
Good.
So my suggestion was, I think at this point, without further investigation to see what else might already be in existence. I think a minimum, I think Tesla needs to grant an easement to Springs of Lake Elmo, accepting the water from them. So that's an easement that needs to happen. A potential second easement would be Tesla to Valley Branch, or possibly a joint easement between Springs and Tesla
Yeah.
to Valley Branch for that location that says, basically, if something's not being maintained, the district can go in and take care of it.
Jeff, give us your take on this.
Well, my only caution, one thing we have to keep in mind is the whole business model for the Springs is they build these complexes. And after a few years, they get them up and running, tweak them, and then they sell them to an real estate investment group. So someone else is gonna own this, if not already soon, right? So we have to just be wary that they're not gonna own it 5 years from now, maybe, or less than 10 years from now. So whatever is put in place has to, move on to the next owner. And I would imagine the Tesla dealership's gonna be there, but,
Or whoever moves in.
or whoever moves in, so.
Tesla stopped selling or something.
I think the idea that they take ownership, stabilize like the slope and riprap, and there's a catch basin there that gets it, and I think that's all great. It's all in the legalese part of this, that's, do we have an easement, or do they have an easement just between the two? Are we tied to that, or are those property owners tied to it? Or-
Ultimately,
I don't know any of that.
ultimately, they would be responsible for maintenance.
Right.
It's the way the documents are currently drafted is if they fail to maintain, the district sees they're failing to maintain, notifies them that they need to maintain it, and they don't do it. Then the district has authority to go in and fix it and then assess whatever the district's had to pay against the property.
Quick question, do they still have a surety out on there?
Yeah, Springs, like Emily, yes.
Okay.
Tesla too.
Oh, how convenient.
And then just one more point, and John, I think maybe you spoke to the city of Lake Elmo about this, any thoughts on that?
Let's focus just on.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just for my understanding of the physical part of it here. So we got a 14-foot retaining wall. And then where does the riprap fit in? Or would the proposal be, let's take out the retaining wall in the area near it? I thought that the water was flowing under the retaining. wall.
Yes. So the
And-
erosion happens where it comes, it's developed some kind of, the theory is it's developed some sort of channel
Right.
through the rock underneath. It's coming out in one specific area, maybe this wide.
Mhm.
And so they would rip wrap that area, probably have to excavate a little bit, put down some fabric and rock.
Mhm.
And then below that, where it's trenched into the slope, to the grass, they would stabilize all that so that when the water does flow through, it doesn't erode anything. So just the water itself gets to the storm sewer system without eroding that slope anymore.
Okay,
Right now, there's a gully that's formed at the
It's
foot
a-
of
Yeah.
the.
The riprap is
So
gonna-
what they're proposing to do is put the riprap in to try to spread the flow out a little
Should, yeah.
bit, so there's not this channel.
So it's a win-win for all three of us.
Have a stable side. Right now, it's just a bunch of weeds. It's,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
my
It's a-
impression is that the water flowing, no matter why it, where it's flowing, whether it's flowing into riprap or not, is still gonna destabilize that retaining wall.
That's my question. Do we have a
And
pumping
I,
failure?
Yeah, I had that conversation. Have a city like Elmo because retaining walls that are higher than 4 feet, structural engineer needs to sign off on it. That has apparently been done on this site. That Valley Branch Watershed District does not have any rules and regulations on
Mhm.
retaining walls.
So
That's
that
something that the
deals with the
city
city
and the developers, engineers
Uh-huh.
handle.
Okay, so that's a boundary for us in terms of our liabilities.
But if there's a problem, we have to get involved.
And
That's why they have
I'm
that
guessing that
third.
this retaining wall fails. There'll be discussions with Valley Branch Watershed District.
There you go.
Mhm.
So what are we gonna do with this one? Are we going to have them build what they propose? And then we have a easement signed by both of them with us? Counselor? Whoops.
I think so, but also more importantly, Tesla and Springs of Lake Elmo have to have an easement between the two of them that Valley Branch is not a part of.
Okay,
Because think about it, Tesla is accepting water that's not theirs, right? Something is coming on their property that is not their problem. And they're saying, yes, it's okay to put your water on our land. So that needs to happen, and Valley Branch can't grant that authority, and they can't require that authority, that permission. So
right?
that's easement number one.
Okay,
Easement number two, and this is, I gotta think this through, if it's gonna be Tesla and Springs. But ultimately, the responsibility of maintenance will be on Springs. But just if something failed and wasn't properly maintained, then the district could go in and take care of it, and ultimately, the responsibility would be on Springs of Lake Elmo. So
right?
that's easement number two,
It's agreement,
which I think I would just incorporate into the easement.
that would be part of that.
That would be part of
that
the
section, right?
Mhm.
Because that's the important part, that Springs has to maintain that, so if it becomes a problem, they need to go repair it.
Yeah, basically, so Tesla can point the finger at Springs if there's an issue, and Valley Branch can point the finger at Springs if there's an issue.
Right.
Right on.
And that would be
Solutions.
everything, including the liability, all of the liability for the retaining wall.
Would go on to Springs, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I'm gonna get it. I'm not worried, like. Crumbling retaining wall is not where my brain goes, but, I'm worried about the water, right? But if Tesla, because the one thing I am not drafting the easement between Tesla and Springs. That's them and their attorneys. I will be focused on the one between Tesla and Springs and Valley Branch.
okay,
So Tesla and Springs can do whatever they want. I need to see it, and then we'll record it.
So if they happen to be unaware, who's going to bring that to their attention?
What do you mean unaware?
Well, this would be the burden of the Springs of Lake Elmo to do all this.
Okay,
Yeah, that's their water.
so they know this.
Well, they've asked to do this and the managers are discussing it tonight so that John
Okay.
can go back to them and tell them what the managers decided.
Or in this case, Attorney Torsa.
Or I will talk. I was talking to everybody tomorrow.
Who's cheaper? Okay,
So that's-
Susanna, you have your marching orders.
I do, is everyone, I mean, I think I know. what I'm
Do we
doing.
need a motion for this or can we direct you?
Mm, Let's see what they come up with first and then bring it back for a formal motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's do that.
Sure.
Just I mean, I'm okay with their proposed solution, it's their proposed solution, and everything, but personally, I think Tesla's nuts to. I mean,
Well, we don't know if they will.
Yeah.
Right?
Have they been in the loop at all?
Yeah, I
Tesla?
think the guy with the
They're.
26-3 Prairie was the problem.
That's, we had another one.
Drain tile
Two in a row.
back of that curve during
Holy
construction
cow.
because it was such a water problem on that slope.
Well,
that
it's
they
gonna
put
be
drain-
ice in the spring and it's gonna be just constant mess coming over that curve.
No wonder they call it the Springs of Lake Elmo.
This-
Well,
This was an elevation based in each corner of the block.
But nobody wants to mention the 600-pound gorilla in the room. If Elon Musk finds out about this, we're screwed.
Yeah, we're out of here.
Well,
There is that.
They should renovate those freaking regulations.
I like the hyenas better with the way they handle their.
So, so two fun ones today.
All that. Okay, so we stand with that directive and we'll see what happens. Counselor Torsa has a.
Yeah, mine should be pretty quick and easy. The first one is a resolution. So there was a permit issued in 2024 in Acton.
Yeah.
These permit holders were great. They were way ahead of the game. They got the maintenance agreement and the easement recorded right away and then changed their overall plans so that the Valley Branch permit was canceled. So ultimately, they didn't need to issue a maintenance agreement or easement.
Okay.
Because the permit wasn't closed. So what this is a resolution that would authorize vacating both the maintenance agreement and the storm and the easement that were recorded.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
Do the managers have any comments or questions? Then I will make a motion on this one. Are you ready? Regarding resolution 2025-11, I'll make a motion for a resolution approving the vacation of stormwater management facility maintenance agreement and surface water drainage easement for the canceled Valley Branch Watershed District permit 2024-30. Do I have a second?
Second,
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 It is approved. You need a signature from the both of us.
I will, I'll get those.
Want us to use, well. Okay, thank you.
The next one is, there's no action to be taken. I just wanted you to have an update on the properties that have been acquired, the closings that have been finalized. Which ones are vacated and which ones are occupied still and how far along. The other thing I wanted to do was give you an update on payment of property taxes for next year.
Yeah,
So in 2026, the property taxes for 2025 are being paid. And because those properties were occupied not by the district in 2025, can't get out of paying them in 2026. But we'll get the application to not have to make them tax exempt in, which I'd like to do after the homes are demolished. So I'll come back with that for the application to get approval.
yeah,
But so the district should be aware it's gonna have to pay real estate taxes on all four of those properties if you still own them next year. And then in 2027 is when it will show it's exempt and you don't have to pay. So more just letting you know the information so you're not surprised come
right,
May 15th and you have to pay for staff property taxes on 4 properties.
which is gonna be fairly hefty. However, Is there anything that we can do to prevent that? Or
No.
we're locked in. Okay,
Correct.
okay.
And then just letting you know, on page 2 is that the purchase agreements have been signed for 2 properties. These were both ones that are gonna close on before the first of next year, but they had pretty hefty earnest money payments, and so those payments have gone out, so another 15,000 and the 137.50. So unless there's questions, that's my update, and that's all I have.
Counselor, thank you very much. All right. Update. Jeff. You like, talking now?
Sure, President on managers, there was a report in the packet. Just a couple of quick updates to that.
Yeah.
Today, if you remember the discussion with the forefront basin that needed to be reworked, and we had the gentleman online with us. And we talked about the infiltration basin doesn't function. They're converting it to a basin with an air enhanced system. So they've started working on that today. They started pumping down that pond, and they're gonna start working on that. So they just got the equipment stage and they're starting on it. And then other than that, I've been out working with Josh on looking at permits from 2024 that we can close. Just, there's a lot of municipal or, related things that we can wrap up. So we're trying to get ahead of things and close out some of those permits.
Very good, sir. Do the managers have any questions or comments? It's all looking good. And, but we've had a little bit of a dry spell, so to speak, so. I'm ready to eat. Okay. Well, with that said, I thank you, Mr. Inspector. We'll let it go. Right? Our next item. This one's good. Gotta make a mother-in-law comment about the April thing, because taking me shopping all the time. I had to carry fabric for her. Awkward moments. Okay. The April allowance. Let's get into that. John. Mr. Engineer. what-
President Rashawn and managers, I had a very brief conversation with President Rashawn about apparel and a possible allowance for each manager. Reported at the last meeting by Secretary Brock, all of the Valley Branch logo, all that is set up at Heritage Embroidery, and they recommended that you bring in your own apparel rather than ordering through them. They can knock it out for, I think it's $17 or thereabouts. And it would take about 2.5 weeks to get that. So if you want Valley Branch logo apparel for the Minnesota Watersheds Conference, I suggest that you do that relatively quickly here. But in my brief conversation with President Rashawn, I thought I threw out like, well, maybe each manager should get up to $100 or something like that as a apparel allowance that the Watershed District would cover. And I did check in with South Washington Watershed District and Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District to see what they do, and that's listed in the memo. So this is just open for discussion that the managers might want this information.
Very good, sir. So I do have a quick comment on that. So it seems reasonable that the managers, and we can include other members of our group. I don't know how Susanna feels about walking around with some. Jeff, we certainly would want you to have one of some sort. But what do I say, an allowance of $100 per manager sets us back to $500, and that seems like a reasonable number for acquiring garments. And if you exceed something, perhaps you want to wear something flamboyant with a logo on it. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, and you can have, I got some ideas. You could have this put on, and it exceeds the cost, then that comes out of your pocket. Does that seem like an idea? We could make it more. We can make it less. Seems reasonable, and it doesn't seem like a lot of money. So, what other ideas do you gentlemen have?
Sounds fine to me.
Sounds good to you. Purchase our
Okay.
own garment. I like the camo shirts. And we have the logo put on. You know, no political statements or anything. Right? Nothing risque.
So the $100 would only cover the embroidery. You'd be responsible for buying your own outfit that you have it embroidered, or
No,
would that go
you
towards?
just get $100 and you put all of that money to your garments and the embroidery.
I see.
And exceeding the $100
It's on you.
comes out of your pocket, unless you gentlemen think you would like more. It's just a thought. We can make it $200 and make it by $1,000.
I was at Costco, so I got my $18.99 Costco shirt. I'll have a $17 logo charge, so I'll be less than 40.
You can pocket the rest.
I was thinking of taking my Minnesota Watershed shirt and having Valley Branch put on this side, so I got both covered. in
Double
one shirt.
dip it. Actually, that's not a bad idea. And also caps, any garment or, headgear, whatever. You know, it's up to you. And.
Can I have a sticker made for my gun safe?
Yeah, actually, that's not. He's taking all my ideas. Here, you're not putting that on your suit. So anyway, that's what we can do. And I could easily see a couple of shirts or whatever it is that somebody wants to, whatever occasion. You know, obviously, official. To let people know who we are. And that should fall within the $100 range, I think. A couple of shirts, you know, maybe a light jacket, something like that. Does that sound okay, or?
If it's for Minnesota Watersheds, I might want long underwear.
Well, oh, where we're going?
Yeah, yeah. If it's anything like last.
Bill, you
year.
put that logo wherever you want.
They have some,
The camera's on.
Just point of clarification.
Yes,
Were
sir.
you anticipating that to be a one-time thing or an annual, maximum annual allowance? I'm just asking for point of clarification.
Okay, at this point, we can, to be determined at this time, an allowance of $100 per manager, and I will include the inspector. And then we can make a stipulation that that could change in the future. We could do that again.
Just a one-time thing.
Right.
Yep.
What if I gain more weight? I gotta change my shirt.
Yeah.
Trying not to. Yeah. What do you think, Ray?
sounds fine.
Time you take some exotic adventure, wear your logo. Mr. Leek, what is that? Okay,
Is there a specific color to the logo?
yeah.
The logo is what you see on the agenda. Blue and
Yeah, show them the logo that we came up with. And not the Latin,
Yeah,
so it's the badge, the Valley Branch Watershed District with the blue and the evergreen
Oh,
trees and
I see. Okay.
they can make it a variety of sizes, right?
think so.
2 inches, 3 inches, you know,
Okay. Thank you.
your whole back.
So I think it would blend well with camel, with the brown and the green.
And right in.
It'll look good. It'll stand out. But those guys are for real. Whatever. Anyway, I suppose I can make a motion, but I want to include our inspector. So let's see if I can do this right. I would like to make a motion to provide an allowance for the managers, including our inspector, for $100 each to purchase logos and garments for the Valley Branch Watershed District.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
It is approved. And so what we can do is, since that's been created, what we can do is, bring our receipts to the Valley Branch Watershed District and then get reimbursed. That sound all right?
Yeah, just submit them with your,
As it would be an expense. Is
submit
that
it
good,
with your
Rick?
quarterly
Yeah.
expense report.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So have at it, gentlemen. Yeah, I won't make any joke. Okay. That's all. Now, here's an interesting one. This is about racial equity and Ramsey County boards and committees. Yes, I read this.
Mr. President, I distributed email that updates this issue.
Yes.
After receiving the email on Thursday, October 2nd,
Yes.
communicated with other administrators who have parts of Ramsey County within their districts and communicated back to Ramsey County. Once again, we tell them this frequently that watershed districts are not advisory boards to the county. Watershed districts are their own entities. And so after that communication, received the email that I distributed tonight on Friday saying disregard that email from Thursday.
All right.
That's a
So
moot point.
But I'm guessing if you'd like to have the training, you'd be welcome to have it here. Especially.
anybody can do that to their own accord, and I consider that issue closed. And I'm not going to bring it up. Okay?
When I first saw it, I was a little worried that, that I had responded incorrectly at the interview.
Oh, I'm not gonna touch any of that stuff. Oh, my goodness. Information only to cost share tracking. Okay, what are we down to? 8,000 or something? I think Alyssa's gonna, excuse me. I think she's gonna make the 8 grand by the time we're. Oh, John, have you had a chance to, no, you have not yet. Okay.
Mr. President, managers, I did send an email to Alyssa today based on the workshop.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Future business and meetings, we have the district workshop regarding the rules. Baytown Community Center, of course, October 22. Put that on your calendars, if in case you're not aware. John, most respectfully, send us a reminder, as you generally do, and I appreciate that. Then, of course, will the managers be able to attend the October 23 and November 13th meeting?
I will be out of town, but I plan to attend remotely.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. Are you gonna be in the States?
Las Vegas.
Oh.
I don't know if that's the States or not.
No, that's a different, that's a different planet, right, I get it. Oh my God. Okay. The watershed budget workshop with the Washington County Board, Washington County Government Center, November 4th, approximately 10 a.m. John, when in due time, please send us reminders on that. I'm obviously going to attend. I suppose the other managers are welcome. If you are inexperienced with this and would like to see it, you probably won't be asked to talk to the commissioners. We'll probably put John up to it. That's what it is. And finally, we're aware of the upcoming event, the Minnesota Watershed Annual Conference, Grandview Lodge in Nisswa, December 3 to 5. So that's going to be Well, we had it last year and hopefully the weather will cooperate. We won't be in the middle of a blizzard or something. You know. Let's see how many thoughts. Okay, so, one more item. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Right.
We are adjourned.